Double trouble for Bill de Blasio. New York City's mayor getting slammed by governors on both sides of the Hudson River. Andrew Cuomo is ratcheting it up, and now Chris Christie is piling on. Then more calls to immediately fire the police officer who mistakenly arrested former tennis player James Blake and slammed him to the ground. We're going to talk to a city council leader who's leading that charge. Also, everybody's looking at the poll numbers and at the Donald, but we're going to look at the issues that matter to people in the 2016 election, and we're seeing some surprises. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. As Mayor Bill de Blasio cuts the ribbon at the first new subway station in New York City in more than a quarter century, the Cuomo administration cuts down de Blasio again. The new station brings the 7 train to the far west side near the Javits Center, but instead of celebrating, the head of the MTA used the occasion to go on the attack. Tom Prendergast blasted the mayor for refusing to cough up more money to the MTA for capital projects and pointed out that Cuomo has already promised $8 billion. Now that's going on as de Blasio's progressive push is hitting a bit of a snag. The mayor has tried to raise his national profile by starting a coalition to deal with immigration, but the Times points out that that push has fallen flat. And now de Blasio is focusing on yet another national progressive platform, one that deals with income inequality. And that one is drawing heat from New Yorkers who want the mayor to focus on the city and not the entire country. And who knows, that could give Governor Cuomo one more thing to criticize him about. Let's talk about this now with our panel tonight. Richard Brodsky is here. He's a former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos and a professor at NYU. To his left, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. And on the opposite side of the table, Richard St. Paul, Republican strategist and former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association. So de Blasio has had his stumbles. We certainly talked about that ad nauseum on this show, and it looks as though the immigration push is yet another one of those. Here's what I didn't get from the subway incident with Prendergast and the MTA. What's in it for Cuomo? What's Cuomo's endgame in continuing to try to push back on de Blasio? Is it just naked political power?
We both know the answer to
body
that one.
count.
Right, body count, literally, yeah.
Look, plunging into motivation is not going to get you very far down the road because you don't know. The Cuomo modus operandi is where there's an alternative power center, sit on it, kill it, smash it. So that's with everybody. What Prendergast did, though, was really disingenuous because it's the MTA is a state responsibility. Mm-hmm. And Prendergast has known for a while that the state was not coming up with the money. To switch over when Cuomo did not adequately fund the state share and then focus on the city share is the head of the MTA doing local politics. He should stay out of that stuff.
Yeah, but the head of the MTA is appointed by the governor, so it's no sweat off the back for the head of the MTA to make comments about the mayor. I mean, it's like kicking while he's down. Look, at the end of the day, I said this before, is the New York City media market is the largest market in the country. And if Cuomo can pick a fight in the New York City media market that elevates his profile, then he will do it. And he has done it.
Is there anything the governor gains upstate, let's say, by pitting? Is this an upstate, downstate kind of thing? Or is this simply, in your mind, also just a political power?
No, obviously, I think in terms of upstate, downside, aside from jobs and economics, there are two different agendas in terms of the upstate and downstate. And how you get to those jobs and agendas are different also. But no, it has no effect on, I think, what's happening upstate on his downstate fights.
Dominic Cuomo's just kicking until de Blasio's dead?
That's a good that's a good analysis. Governor Cuomo understands one thing. And see, whoever is advising Mayor de Blasio, and these days I don't know who is advising him because he's getting very bad advice. This governor will not stop until de Blasio is out of office.
The mayor, the mistake de Blasio made was picking a fight, declaring war
Publicly.
and then heading out of town. If you're going to pick a fight with somebody, you pick the fight. Okay, it's not a bad thing, but then you don't say, "And I'll see you in the boxing ring a week from Thursday when I get back." You just don't do that.
Now, this is going to be my naive question of the day because I know about the politics and it's one against the other and it's all a power play. But at some point, is this kind of back and forth coming between the governor and what's in the best interest of the state overall? Should people across New York be looking at the governor's office and saying, hey, he's more interested in beating down the mayor of New York City than he is on governing the state effectively?
Yeah, but when you look where Cuomo has interjected himself, right? from pre-K to the most recently, the whole incident with Legionnaire's disease. I mean, so Cuomo is actually benefiting New Yorkers.
It's good for Cuomo. I understand this is good for Cuomo, but is it good for New York, for the state, for the people?
Why, it's not bad for New York. I mean, it doesn't hurt New York at all. I mean, the mayor only has control of New York City. The governor has control of the entire state, including New York City. So it's not bad for the state, this quarrel. It's bad for de Blasio.
It feels to me on it feels to me on some level, Richard, like
pounding a dead person. It's not.
I like that. I like
it's
that.
Not charitable.
Can I hear that one more time?
It's not pleasant.
What was that?
You heard me.
Well, I didn't hear it.
Body count.
You said they're pounding a dead person. That's the best way to put it.
It's not pleasant. It's not fun. It's not nice. It's not how you're taught to play nice with people.
But what about my thesis that maybe the governor is emphasizing the feud with de Blasio and trying to put de Blasio in a box at the expense of maybe what's in the best interest of the state?
You know, there is gambling in Casablanca, and there are politics in New York. Get over it.
Let me try a stab at that one. This governor is not that stupid. He's not going to leave himself open to that criticism. So, for example, when he takes on de Blasio on 42nd Street,
Yeah.
he's taking on a local issue that impacts the mayor of New York more than anyone else, and yet he's seen as the guy that's coming in, Cuomo, trying to fix the problem.
But in case you think it's just de Blasio, he just did get back from Puerto Rico, where he was telling them how to solve their problems.
The governor did.
Yeah. So,
And not to mention, look at the numbers. The governor is more popular than the mayor, so it says it right there.
Does anybody think that New York City is going to pony up $2 billion more to the MTA, as Prendergast was complaining about, or that issue is actually of any concern at all?
It's a perfectly legitimate thing for Prendergast to ask. What is not legitimate is for him to pretend that the state has done its job. The state has been more at fault. Cuomo has been more at fault than anything de Blasio could do. If Prendergast wants to run an agency as an arm of the Cuomo administration, he should get his job title redone. Everyone's subject to legitimate criticism. Some things are done in ways that make you cringe. This was one of them.
But for the most part, nobody's pointing a finger, at least at this table, at Cuomo. Nobody's saying he's going too far. It's just all part of the game. De Blasio's going to get tread marks on his back.
It's all part of the game, and the governor has sent a clear signal to every agency and every leader that it's fair game to go at de Blasio's kneecaps.
Okay.
I mean,
And that's exactly what they're doing.
Now, Governor Cuomo may have something to worry about on the horizon. We mentioned that Chris Christie is criticizing Bill de Blasio also, but as Christie tries to turn his back on his scandal, Bridgegate, Cuomo is facing allegations that he misled, or that he meddled rather, into the operations of the anti-corruption Moreland Commission that he shut down last year. Senior officials on the commission say they believe that Cuomo and his staff intervened, and that made them question the independence of the commission. Now, we had heard rumors about this, but this is a filing that was part of the Shelley Silver case on Friday. You know Albany as well as anybody. You think Cuomo was intervening in Moreland, and do you think Cuomo needs to look?
There is gambling in Casablanca.
Should Cuomo be looking
there
over?
Are politics in New York,
Should Cuomo
and there are politics in Albany.
Thanks for letting me get to the second part of the question. Should Cuomo be looking over his shoulder right now? Do you make anything of this filing on Moreland?
Yeah, this. Remember what this was? This was Preet Bharara's office saying that members of the Moreland Commission have a problem with what Cuomo did in terms of trying to run that process. The Cuomo investigation isn't over, and I don't know about looking over your shoulder or not, but it's certainly an open question.
If he, and I'll get your take in 1 second. If he influenced the Moreland Commission, is that illegal? Because his defense was, I started this commission, I can disband this commission.
There's a two-part answer. If all he was doing was interfering with the Moreland Commission, he's perfectly well within his rights. But he also brought the Attorney General's office in. He did what's called a referral, the same thing that Mario did on Tawana Broadley. That made the Attorney General the responsible official. If he interfered with the issuance of a subpoena by the Attorney General's office, he's in big trouble.
This was one of the greatest hits of the New York Republican Party last year, or during the gubernatorial campaign.
Look, I think I disagree. I think if he interfered with the Moreland Commission, if he, as was rumored that the secretary to the governor, who's now no longer the secretary to the governor, Larry Swartz, called up and said, hey, don't send subpoenas or investigate certain donors to the governor, I think that type of interference into an investigation, no matter who started the Moreland Commission, is improper. And I think certainly, and I agree with you on this point, the investigation is certainly not over. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to see somebody from the Cuomo administration indicted.
Dominic, if there's any one word Andrew Cuomo doesn't want to hear anymore, it's Moreland. How bad do you think this could be for him?
He's not a stupid man. He knows how far to go, even when he's interfering. Cuomo, no, I'm being honest with you. Cuomo's the type of guy where he's smart enough not to be hands-on. He's hands-on in everything that he does, and I mean everything, but his fingerprints are not on it. So I don't think at the end of the day you're going to find much as it relates to this governor that you can actually prove. We can all theorize
That's not the way
all
the
day.
system works. They chew themselves up the food chain by getting people afraid of what will happen to them if they don't say things. True, false, or indifferent. This investigation's underway. That's all we know. Why don't we leave it at that?
That's the criminal side of it. That's the legal side of it. What about the political side? If there's more to be made out of the Moreland Commission, if it winds up in the headlines more, does that undercut the governor's political lens?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, people don't like corruption. People in the state of New York do not like corruption or corrupt politicians.
There's no problem for them if there's no legal stuff. They tried that last year. How'd you do?
Listen, Preet Bharara just got the investigation. We already got Shelley Silver, so we'll see how this. And
You didn't
have,
get anybody
Dean
yet.
Skelos,
You have
and
indictments.
you're working up the chain into the governor's office. I'm sure. I predict that somebody's going to be indicted there.
Dom, if the headlines keep coming, you think there's any chance that Andrew Cuomo winds up on a political island?
He's not that stupid, to be frank with you. He's a lawyer himself.
I'm sure he's got the credentials. He was the New York State Attorney General.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ask if the U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara wants Cuomo's head on a platter, the answer is yes. But I don't think Cuomo's that stupid. You're not going to get him. It's hard to get a sitting governor, even though it happened recently in Virginia, and that was even the former.
Well, it
governor,
happened in
right?
Connecticut. It happened in New Jersey.
Illinois, happened in Louisiana,
yeah,
it happened in
Let
New
me
York.
explain something. About a third of the governors in the metropolitan area, the tri-state area, have gone out and changed in the last
I stand
10
corrected.
years. And
I
about
stand
6%
corrected.
of the legislators.
I stand
and that's all
corrected.
you've
That
been
was
talking
a
But are they
about.
as smart
Other
as-
legislators. I'll take you outside.
Are they as smart as Andrew Cuomo?
I would
guess
say
that's the
they weren't, but I mean, they were not. But
I
give them
stand
some
corrected.
credit.
I stand corrected.
All right, we'll take our first break. Up next,
sitting.
James Blake has lawyered up. The former tennis player is threatening to sue the police officer who took him down. We're going to introduce you to the city council member who wants to keep that officer off the force immediately.